Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we'll be breaking down our picks for the top 5 and one worst Warlock Cantrips.
Yes, indeed. 5 Warlock Cantrips. Sorry, I'm bumping my green screen and shit. It's fine. Don't worry about it. We're talking about Warlock Cantrips, and there's 3. Are there more than 3? I don't think there's more than 3, because you always take the same 3. Maybe you take a 4th one, but for the most part, there's just 3. There literally are more. You're just never taking on the other ones.
I thought I had to really severely restructure my list.
No.
What I noticed here was that there are a lot of like damage cantrip options that
you're sure never taken.
You absolutely don't need.
Yeah, that's correct.
I mean, a lot of them have like little tiny side effects, but no.
Yeah. Should we just rip the Band-Aid off and start with number 1?
I think our first 3 are definitely going to be the same. Let's make some predictions. Okay. The worst might be the same. I think you know mine, and if you wanted to swivel around it, there are definitely other options.
There is a second option you could pick, yeah.
Yeah, all right, yeah. I know that second option. So that it comes down to what those last 2 choices are for the top 5.
Yeah,
I don't think we'll have the same ones, but we'll see.
I think I know one of yours. I didn't put that on my list. I really thought about it. But
I don't know. We'll get there. One of mine.
Yep. Only one way to find out, right? I think we probably have 4 for 5. But
do we have any caveats for Warlock spells?
Yeah, the top 3 are really good, and you have to build around one of them. So like it's often touted as a main feature of the Warlock class, so that's meaningful. Another thing that I like to talk about instead is that Warlocks have great weapon proficiencies. You can get short swords and use them just fine. Pact of the Blade is a thing that a lot of people want to pursue with like Hexblades and stuff. Even outside of Hexblade, Pact of the Blade builds exist with Thirsting Blade, so oftentimes your damage is coming from weapons. That makes damaging cantrips worse, because modifiers matter a lot when it comes to weapons. So like I will very, very frequently start my Warlocks with no damaging cantrips and a short bow, and that's good enough. And I just ride that for the first 5 levels of the game and just start multi-class nonsense, grab some levels in row, grab a bunch of other little things here and there, cobble together a cool little build. You will function exactly fine in combat as long as you make sure you're keeping that scaling up. But like you don't need damaging cantrips on this list unless you want to like build into the first one. If you want to do the weapon stuff, consider this more of a martial class, and then your utility options are going to be way better.
All right, well, let's get into it. What is the first one?
It's Eldritch Blast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think on its own, it's like Firebolt, and I don't rate Firebolt that highly, but it's like fine. The thing is, it's not on its own. The thing is, it's in a class that has a thing called Agonizing Blast that lets you attach Charisma to it, and it also differs at 5th level from Firebolt in that it changes to be an extra attack instead of a increased dice size. And whenever you have Agonizing Blast stable to that means you're doubling the Charisma mod output damage as well as getting the extra D10. And you can target multiple things, so you're not ever really wasting the damage, but you do have to hit multiple times. It's the kind of thing where like a lot of Munchkin builds exist because you can quicken the Eldritch Blasts with Sorcerer, so you can just like fire off a million of them. And while I think like in a vacuum with no other context, it's not their best cantrip, not by a long shot. In the context of what a lot of Warlock builds tend to be, it's definitely an easy route to explore to be like, this is how I do damage round, and it's gonna do great.
Yeah, I mean, you wind up getting multiple blasts from it. It's augmented by other things than just Agonizing Blast, if you choose to. I like Repelling Blast.
You're a shooter? Sure you do.
And there's other lesser augmentations as well. But yeah, Eldritch Blast, nice to have it. That knocked every other damaging cantrip off my potential picks for this list.
Yeah, I would definitely a 4 for 5. Well, maybe even 3 for 5. You might be right. I also will end with, we did it. My first video on this channel, I think, was me talking about Eldritch Blast and why I don't like it. I really don't like Eldritch Blast as a spell, and I stand by a lot of those opinions still. I think that you don't need to commit every turn of your life to Eldritch Blasting as a Warlock and have a great time. The class isn't well built for going past 5, but like if you like the thematics of Warlock and you're cool multi-classing, I think you're gonna have a great time with a few levels here. Don't take Eldritch Blast and then do other things instead. There's a lot of power loaded in the front 3 levels of this that don't require a D10 cantrip.
All right. I guess we'll move on from there. We've shared our opinions on Eldritch Blast in the Eldritch Blast video. That was a long time ago.
In
Yes.
every single invocation video that talks about it.
Yes. All right. What's my next pick? I picked Mage Hand.
Yep, my number 2. Normally be my number 1, but yeah, it's bonkers. It's great. What's not to love?
Yeah, it's Mage Hand. I think every list this is appropriate in, or available in, it makes that list.
It's always great. It's telekinesis, and telekinesis in D&D is sweet. It's cheap. I'm sure the telekinesis is light and you can see the hand, but there's so many little things this can interact with. There'll be a lot of times in every adventure we'll be like, oh, Mage Hand does something here. The more fleshed out and developed environments are, the better this thing gets. The more you ask your DM for details, the better this thing gets. It will always surprise you what a Mage Hand can just do. It doesn't require concentration, so you can use it no context whatsoever as to like if you're concentrating on other things, but having a minute duration. It's just a fantastic little effect.
And this is also augmentable if you get the telekinesis feat.
Yeah,
or
it makes it invisible. Also,
feat. Yeah,
telekinetic. 3 levels in Arcane Trickster. I love Rogue Warlock hybrids, and that Warlock Arcane Trickster gives you extra spell slots too, so it kind of like it's a home run. Then you're got Mage Hand Letterman, so it's all invisible and stuff. Yeah, it seems like a match made in heaven.
All right, Mage Hand. There we go.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We've talked about it a million times. Watch that video too. It's a good one. It's a fantastic effect.
All right, what else you got?
My number 3, I think, is probably your number 3. Although I think you like it less than I do. It's Minor Illusion. Yep. This is eerily similar to every other Arcanist, like, first or cantrip slot. We talked about both these with Artificer, we talked about both these with Wizards. I'm sure we'll talk about both of them when we come to Sorcerer, assuming they're both on the Sorcerer list. This is just create a sound or object with an illusion, and depending on how you engage and interface and, like, play within the scope of the game, this can be unbelievably powerful or entirely useless, right? It's going to vary based off not just creativity, but like your willingness to interpose wacky, dumb ideas into the space to ask your DM what's going to happen if I do that. There's going to be moments where you would think it's going to do something big and does nothing at all. There'll be moments where you're like, this might do a little thing that disrupts the entire following scene of, everything gets disrupted and you got a giant event now because someone heard what sounded like a tiger loose in the room, right? Like there's going to be lots of opportunity for both the sound and the image to provide cover, to create distress, to feign and hide, do lots of different things. Like it's really versatile, it's really flexible, it's a fantastic little cantrip.
Yeah, and also it fits the image I have of the generic Warlock. When I think Warlock, I think of some guy lurking in the shadows being tricksy with his illusions.
When I think of Warlock, I think of like blood rituals and sacrifice, but teach their own.
Yeah. You gotta keep people distracted while you're doing your blood rituals and sacrifices.
Gotcha. You have a little gnome dancing in the corner. Look at me. And you're just like slitting throats. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Minor Illusion. Awesome.
That's great. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
All right.
Time for the fun stuff.
Yeah. All right. I misspoke before when I said I knocked all the other damaging cantrips off my list.
Oh, okay. So we probably are 4 from 5.
Oh, are we? Well,
maybe.
Let's see.
We'll see.
This is what I picked. And I only picked this because I just ran out of ones I cared about. So this is what was left. I picked Frostbite.
My number 5.
Was it? Oh,
yeah.
All right. I was kind of surprised.
I was in the exact same boat. I'm like, well, I picked the damage cantrip you'd pick if you wanted to go damage cantrip on Warlock. And then I guess this is the second best one?
Because, I mean, there's just so many damage cantrips on this list.
Yeah. Like, you viewers at home, your options are, you got Booming Blade, Chill Touch, Create Bonfire, Eldritch Blast, Frostbite, Green Flame Blade, Lightning Lure, Magic Stone, Mind Sliver, Poison Spray, Sword Burst, Thunderclap, Toll the Dead are all damaging cantrips. And you sure don't need any of those if you're going Blaster. So, like,
yeah.
I think Frostbite is probably around as good as Mind Sliver is, but I like this slightly more on Warlock because you're not imposing as many saves because you only get 2 spell slots. So, like, this is a nice little utility thing to fall back on, I guess. Makes things have a harder time hitting stuff.
If I had this in Eldritch Blast, I don't think I'd ever use this.
Yeah. the dice downgrade is pretty meaningful. At first level, if you have no upgrades, this is better than Eldritch Blast, I think, by a lot. But as soon as you get an upgrade, Eldritch
Oh
Blast
yeah,
is way
that's
better.
true. I might use this in the beginning.
I wouldn't ever recommend taking both though. So
no. Yeah, I wouldn't either. But what the upside is that yeah, it's like
creature,
a vicious mockery,
yeah,
except
disadvantage
not
on weapon
fun.
attack roll.
Right.
Yeah, it's just chilly instead. I also
Yeah.
don't love it. I don't think the flavor's that good here. I just don't. There aren't a lot of cold warlock options, so I'm like, this definitely feels like an elementalist kind of thing. And warlocks are like, I don't know, not this to me, but you know, it's still fine.
I mean, to be fair, you can still shout insults while you do this.
Yeah, nothing can stop. You can viciously mock somebody with a great sword. No one can stop you from living your dreams of making fun of people's mothers, which is, I think, 95% of Bob's career.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. Anything else to say about Frostbite?
It's a good cantrip. I like it on not warlocks.
Yeah.
I would think more often than not, you'd rather take a weapon attack roll. My number 4 is the only reason this makes my list is because it is for a full archetype of warlock that I touched on at the beginning. I put Green Flame Blade here that you will use with your Back to the Blade warlocks, your martial warlocks, basically up until the point you get Thirsting Blade, and then you'll swap it out for a different cantrip because it doesn't scale with extra attack. But up until that point, Green Flame Blade is a weapon attack improvement that you can take as your damaging cantrip that'll take your great sword and let it be a little bit magical for the first 5 levels of the game. And that's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. I don't think it's atrocious.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to go that way. Did not make my list.
I think 95% of well, no, that's not fair. I think like the majority of every other warlock that isn't planning on attacking people with great swords or whatever has no business putting this on the character sheet.
But I think there are a significant amount that are attacking with a great sword, and yeah, they might find this useful.
Agreed. At least until you can replace it with Thirsting Blade.
I bet this one makes the list of a lot of people in our comments.
Yeah, maybe. But like, if you were, I think a lot of people in our comments also aren't playing levels 1 to 3, so this gets a little bit less interesting because you only have it for 2 levels. But maybe.
All right. Yeah, my last choice was just like a wild shot in the dark. I thought for a specific type of warlock or character that you want to play, Friends is fun.
I knew it was Friends. The moment I know we have 4 or 5, I know Bob put Friends on the list. He loves the spell too much not to take it. I really considered it. It was almost over Frostbite for me. Yeah.
Yeah. This is it's fun. And again, it goes with the warlock. Like,
oh, it's beautiful warlock.
I don't have friends. I don't want friends. I want to lure people into being my friend just so that I can show them how little I care about their feelings and their friendship.
Mm-hmm.
I only want to make friends to betray them and piss them off.
I think like on the archetype level, right? Like I think this both fits on the fiendish, you pack with the devil kind of deal, where it's like, oh, we're friends magically because I'm really charming magically, but the moment you see through my veil, I'm a monster. Or the Fae, like I beguile your mind and charm you, and you have no idea what's going on. Both those fit this archetype perfectly.
Sure.
It's just like mechanically, it ain't a great cantrip. It just normally causes distress and disruption, which I guess, like, if that's your objective, which I think it might be on some of these characters, then it can be kind of neat.
It has to be. That's the only reason to use this.
Yeah, because the help action sure does exist, and that definitely does everything this text does whenever you're like trying to navigate social encounters. Plus, it engages more people. Help actions are great. I'm not trying to say like the help action mitigates this as a bad thing. It normally just means like, hey, it gets more people playing and encourages more people to have the roleplay stuff and encourage jump into the social stuff, which is good. But like, you really do have to want to make people angry for friends to be good.
Ironic.
Yeah. It's fun. I can definitely foresee a lot of characters that love having that on their sheet. Now, do you put it over Minor Illusion or Mage Hand? Certainly not. But like, it's definitely going to be a good time.
All right. Well, then I guess that's our top 5. You want to go over yours again?
Sure. Eldritch Blast is my number 1. It's contextual. It's number 1 if you're building into it, because it's bonkers good whenever you start quickening it and making 8 attacks around. But like, if you're not doing that, it's a mid-level damaging cantrip. If you're going for a warlock that isn't a blaster or a blade, you probably have better cantrip options than that. Or just, again, weapon attack rolls. My number 2 is Minor Illusion. Number 3 is number 2 is Mage Hand. Number 3 is Minor Illusion. Number 4 is Green Flame Blade, and number 5 is Frostbite? Question mark. Just replace that with your preferable damage cantrip. Right. If you rather have Mind Sliver, go Mind Sliver. I think those are the best of the 2.
All right. Likewise, mine were Eldritch Blast, Mage Hand, Minor Illusion, Frostbite, and Friends. All right. Well, that brings us to the fun part. What did you pick, the obvious worst or the other one?
I hate Blade Ward. Blade
Yeah, I
Ward's
know you do.
awful. It's my worst. Is Blade Ward.
Yeah.
We've also talked about just how bad Blade Ward is every single time we do it, just because it's, if you can't do it as a bonus action, it sure just is a dodge action, but worse. Like, most of the time, you just rather mitigate the damage outright by not taking the attack roll. So, like, don't spend your action not progressing the encounter. Like, you'll be better attacking with a dagger. You'll be better kicking it. Like, reducing 1 hit point might drop it in the future. This doesn't end the encounter any earlier. It just gives them more time to kick your ass. Like, you don't want to ever spend actions using Blade Ward. For the same reason where I advocate, like, no one's taking the dodge action, and this is a side grade to taking the dodge action. That should tell you all you need to know. Like, I don't dodge ever in combat. Why would I ever put this on my character sheet?
Now, if you have to use an action on it, but there are some ways to use this as a bonus action, are there not?
I think the reworked Genasi get the stone one or something, or Goliath. Some species gets the ability to use this as a bonus action. And then it's a lot more interesting. It's like, oh, it's just kind of raging, which is sweet. That's obviously a lot more meaningful there. If you quicken it, you would much rather quicken Eldritch Blast. So that's it. That's all we got. It's good on one species. We've done it.
All right, well done. And the same cannot be said for True Strike.
True Strike is also abhorrent. It's awful. It's terrible.
That's you. I have to re-explain it just so that I can believe the words coming out of my mouth.
Mhm.
You use this. You use your action. Yes, I'm looking it up.
And your
Yes,
concentration.
one action, and your
There you
whatever.
go.
That's, okay, yeah. All right, to cast this spell, and all it does is give you advantage on your next attack. So, using 2 turns to make 1 attack with advantage. An advantage lets you roll 2 dice to take the best roll. Alternatively, you could use those 2 actions to attack twice. And, you're still rolling 2 dice. You might hit twice.
You could.
The likelihood of you
There isn't a window
yes.
where attacking twice does less damage than attacking once with advantage.
Correct.
You will all, if either of the results would hit, they would hit if you attack twice, just the same they would hit if they attacked once. But if both would hit, you get 2 damage dice. And if both would hit whenever you roll advantage, you only get 1 damage dice. So that's just strictly worse. And the floor is taking an action everyone can take.
All right, and I plumbed the depths of my mind to try and find windows where this might be useful. I felt like I made a pretty solid effort in the True Strike video we did. But Sam did an equally good job of shooting all those down.
Sure does.
Go
Has
watch
range
that
30
video.
feet, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's a fun video. Terrible spell.
Awful spell. Horrendous spell. Never put this on a character sheet. Even if you can do it as a bonus action, there have to be better ways to spend your bonus action.
Well, I mean, if you can do it as a bonus action, then it arguably does something. But you can probably find better ways. Whatever. It does something, which is
sure. More than it currently does.
Yes.
Yeah, those are terrible. Want to give a quick shout out. Infestation is awkward and clunky and not very good. I wouldn't recommend taking it either. It's like
a D4. You fill a person with bugs and they like move a random direction.
Yeah, it's only 5 feet and it doesn't provoke opportunity attacks because it's you're forced to get to move 5 feet in a random direction. It's not spending speed on its turn. So like the outcome is a d6 damage with almost no other abilities. Like most of the time it's not disengaging or anything for you. So like it's pretty bad. It does something, which is more than the other 2 cantrips we talked about, but I just figured I mentioned, like, yeah, I think Infestation is pretty uncastable as far as the damage cantrips go. Probably should do a d8 damage for that kind of effect. But yeah, I mean, it definitely
that might be worse, though, because, you move him 5 feet in a random direction. If he's already engaged in combat, like, you're giving your enemy a free disengage.
Yeah, the initiative order will matter there, right? Because it might give your ally a free disengage, too, but
Yeah.
It's the variance is ridiculous for what is sometimes it'll do something, and in most environments it does nothing. So
I could see this as like a Hail Mary pass. You cast it on your ally to give them that
give them
disengage.
a move.
Yeah.
And because you think they're more likely to fail it than the thing you were otherwise targeting, that's really adorable. That's kind of funny. Yeah, it's bad spell. It's not worse than True Tiger Blade Ward, though. Don't take either of those either. Take Minor Illusion, Mage Hand, and Eldritch Blast sometimes, and Green Flame Blade sometimes. Those would be my recommendations.
Okay. All right. Well, those were our picks for Warlock Cantrips. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. What do you think? Let us know your personal list down in the comments, what you thought of our list, and that's that. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.